everyone. This is Norva Semoy Abiona here, your relationship change catalyst and the chief wise wife. And I am really excited to be presenting this interview to you all. Again, another one of our bonuses. And this is with Mr. Will Perry. And if you haven't heard his name yet, be excited because you're going to learn a lot of wonderful things that could really help you to move forward as you try to make the transformation from being in a fearful or frustrating relationship to a life of freedom. So, Will, thank you. And how are you?
Very well, thank you, Norva. As we were just saying, we've just been getting over colds,
Yeah.
but apart from that, very, very well, thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, yeah, we're both on the same page when it comes to that. So, will tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. I nowadays I call myself a mindset coach. I specialise in self-esteem, and that comes from my background of being being brought up in an emotionally abusive environment and repeating the patterns into marriages. So being in abusive marriages, being in an abusive environment, repeating the patterns through life, but of course not realising that until I got quite far down the path and discovered this thing called emotional abuse, which was a whole new world, as it is for anybody that discovers it, I think, because it's not public knowledge. It's not, well, it is out there, but not many people know about it. I think it's a hidden thing. So I call myself a mindset coach now, but that's what I specialize in because of what I discovered more recently in my life. I've worked at the BBC, worked in professional development for more than 15 years. So that's very much my interest, my specialism. But of course, it added a few layers and a few interests and passion when I discovered more about my personal life and why it was going in a certain direction and patterns were repeating.
Yes, yes, makes sense because a lot of people know about physical abuse. It's the most publicized one, but the most practiced type of abuse in relationship is emotional abuse. And from my book and the work that you do and a lot of other people, it's really bringing it to the forefront so that people would begin to realize the issue of the layers of
Mm.
emotional abuse, because it's not just a one size fit all. It's a real continuum. So I don't have to guess. From what you're saying, this is what brought you into this type of work. But what caused you to decide, you know what, I'm going to put other things aside and really start zooming in and focusing my time on this?
Yeah, well, we all have different paths and different experience, different hurdles we go over or work through. I guess very briefly, mine was a family, my sibling, my sister, and my parents, all quite normal childhood, nothing untoward, unusual. In 2004, my sister was in Thailand having a wonderful holiday to recover from an operation which didn't go so well, and unfortunately it was a Boxing Day tsunami, and that killed her. So that was a real shock wave in my life and in my family. And a few years later, what it did, it percolated out through my parents' marriage, and that separated. And my mum had a very, very good and very rare, it has to be said, doctor, a GP, that said, it sounds like you've been suffering from emotional abuse. And what she then discovered was what's emotional abuse, and what she managed to do is piece together all the different bits of information. And then, of course, in the process of her piecing together all the bits of information about what this new thing was that she didn't realize, that made sense of so much in her life, she then could make sense of some of the patterns she was seeing in her children. Obviously, I was the only one left then, but she could see the patterns that were repeating in my life and in my second marriage at that time. And there was one good book, I always talk about it, forgive me, I'm sure you know it, but The Verbally Abusive Relationship by Patricia Evans. She read that. We call it a jaw-dropping book because in that it's a bit similar to yours. It's like, wow, what is this thing that I never heard of? How does it happen? How does it come about? What do you do? And then how do you get out? Not so much how do you get out, but how do you recognize it? And she passed it to me, and I said, "Oh no, no, I'm fine," because I was a good listener. I thought, because I was in professional development, I was an executive coach. I worked on leadership at the BBC, and then she insisted, and I said, "Okay, I'll use the same language as the book," and then read the book, and my jaw dropped, and I realised the patterns that I had repeated and where that had come from in my past. And it was quite shocking. I thought, how do I get to this level of where I am, self-awareness and everything like that, self-development, helping other people? But I didn't realize about this. So I became quite passionate about it, quite impassioned. And a few years later, after separating a marriage, which I didn't want to do really, but having confirmed that the patterns were there, being really absolutely sure, really genned up on all my knowledge and everything that obviously I now understand about emotional abuse. I was having a conversation with my mum, and I said, it's shocking how little is out there. I said, I've thought about doing this video, maybe on YouTube, and she didn't really understand what it was, but she said, do it, please do it. And that was quite a few years ago now, and I did that one of that, so had over I don't know, 70,000 views or something, and from there on I started communicating through that channel, and obviously there was a passion there for me, but also my skills from the past of self-development. It really took off a few layers for me, and I can help people in I think a lot deeper way for people that suffer from low self-esteem from that sort of past.
Yes. Wow. I mean, God bless your mom for seeing what was happening and insisting that you read this book, because
Yes.
as you say, we go through the cycle of abuse. It happens so subtle that we just take it for granted. We think that this is normal. I know, like in my own life, it was because there was the absence of a man in my childhood. I grew up with my grandma, my mom, and myself. So I didn't have a role model of what a healthy relationship looks like. But something draws us or leads us towards this, not just for ourselves, but because there's so many other people who needs to hear the message. And it's really commendable that you decided, you know what, I don't care how successful I am thus far, this the information needs to go out, and I am going to be the man to do it. So that's really well done. So tell me, what have you seen as the biggest issue that keeps reoccurring in people as you work with those who are in abusive relationships?
The biggest thing for me is that I see and now focus on is self-esteem. So, I mean, like yourself, you're out there, like you just described of me having the passion to say, I'm going to be that man. You've had that passion to say, I'm going to be that woman that goes out there, and you have absolutely. So, thank you to you too. What it is for me, and the real bit that I specialize in now is how to build that self-esteem, how to grow that self-worth, so that you can make the decisions that I am going to be that person. Because if you have really low self-esteem, what you're going to do is always push other people there, or think, no, I can't do it, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And that's what keeps you in a relationship as well. I'm not good enough. This person that hits me, or that abuses me, or whatever they do controls me, they're so wonderful because of, we're used to little crumbs perhaps of affection, that we have a perspective that actually says, oh, it's a big thing, it's big as my head, look at that. But perspective is skewed because we haven't, like you said, in your personal experience, you weren't given a great role model. In mine, I wasn't taught what high self-esteem was. I was just taught what was around and what infused, and that was low self-esteem. So I learned low self-esteem, as we all do in that environment, whatever degree of environment that is. So I specialize really now, from all the mindset and the development, the coaching tools that I have. I now get quite excited about helping people to grow the self-esteem, so that they can do exactly the same things that you're helping people to do, to move out, to move on, to build the life that they choose for themselves, that they previously hadn't thought that was possible.
Yeah, I mean, that is really, really important, because even when I think back to my own situation, I didn't leave because everything was sorted, But because I started to spend a little time on personal development, I
Mm.
began to feel a bit better about myself. And that's what kind of opened my eyes to realize, Nova, you do not have to sit and take this. And so, with a little bit of self esteem, you could start moving forward. And of course, getting the right help and support to do that is important. So, how can people get the sort of support that they need as they plan to leave? Because I know it's not about telling everybody that you're leaving, you could put yourself in harm's way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So safety is obviously paramount. You have to do it when it's right for you. So for some people that I work individually coaching. Also have a program that I run, 28 days program, to help people with specific structure that I work. I also do that with business people. The It has to be the right time. Sometimes I just do an individual session. So people just need that external confirmation that they are in that environment, emotionally abusive environment, and then they just have to come to deals with it, come to terms with it and deal with it. For some people, it's just too much to change everything. And they just come to terms with dealing with it, coping with it, the classic walking on eggshells, just accepting that, even if it's accepting that it's going to get gradually worse and worse over time. But for the majority, I'm glad to say that I help them see that it will only get worse, and that there is a life out there they haven't previously been privy to, they haven't been aware of that it was possible. So once they see that, then they kind of get a bit hungry for it. And then there's the steps there, and it's different for everyone. But like your book, your course, the stages that I help people through, then it's about really building your self-belief, building your self-esteem. So you map out what you want in your life. It's completely personal, isn't it? So sometimes that, for me personally, it took 9 months of watching patterns to be absolutely sure, because there was a child involved, absolutely sure that I was going to make that move and break that break. It took me 9 months. For other people, I know they've done it in one day. So because once you know, it's that tipping point. Once you know, you know.
Yes, yeah. And then you could become aware as well. And then something just caused you to decide, you know what, as you said, I'm going to sit in it. It happened to me. I decided to say what was going on. And then
Yep.
because of the reaction of my mom, I just got so scared for her that I didn't say anything for another 3 years. I mean,
Wow.
so for, as you're rightfully saying, for different people, it's different things. But when did you when do you think, or how can people reach out? So you find yourself in an emotionally abusive relationship or physically abusive, and you think, I want to get out. How do I who do I talk to?
Yeah, basically, you just need to educate yourself about
Mhm.
what it is. And when I was going through my stage and process, and I'm sure the same for you, it wasn't out there on YouTube, and it's all quite new, isn't it?
Right.
But there's so much information out there now. There's so many books now on it. The laws are starting to change and recognise psychological or emotional abuse, proving it's difficult, mind you. But there's all sorts of information about that. It's recognising it there and then getting support. So as you said right at the beginning, domestic abuse we know about, but preceding that and underpinning every form of abuse is emotional abuse, psychological abuse, as you've said. So recognizing, understanding what that is, confirming for yourself whether that is you, and if you need somebody else to do that, or whether you can find that from all the bits and resources that are out there already, then perfect. Then what you need to do is make that decision. Am I out or am I in? If I'm in, I need to be realistic about that. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And it's going to teach my children. It's going to perpetuate. It's going to be the same patterns. Or if I'm out, what do I need to do? Like you said, in safety, but also so I don't get out there and repeat the patterns with somebody else.
Yes, that's so true. I mean, you've answered what was going to be my next questions, which are like key points. And so from what you're saying, do you mind just touching on them again? You started off saying that first of all, people need to begin to educate themselves. So
Yeah.
what's the point?
So obvious step is educating yourself. Is this me? Is this label of emotional abuse? Is that relevant to me? Is it pertinent to me? Am I in that? So you need to understand what that is. Once you've understood it, you can confirm whether it's you or not. And then comes the difficult decision of, okay, what do I really want? And that for me is a nub around your belief, your self-esteem. If you're in that situation, you're going to have low self-esteem. So you're not going to make the great decisions and blaze a trail for a trail, whatever make great decisions, strong decisions forward with great confidence and gusto, because you're going to come from a really low place, so a place of low resources. So you really need to educate and build yourself up in terms of that, and that's what I'm passionate about. And the videos I do, they're all free on YouTube. Obviously, those are all about how to do that. The program I do, obviously a paid one, is about really ramping that forward, and same with the one-to-one coaching. So yeah, I'm very much about helping people confirm, educate, and then make that decision forward if they're choosing that.
Okay, and I have one more question for you. So people, they've made the decision out there, they realize I need to get out of this relationship. How can they heal as they begin to move forward in their lives away from the abuse?
That's all part of growing your self-esteem, which I think is quite exciting, although it can seem very daunting, because you can be quite selfish for once, because people that have experienced low self-esteem from abuse are very selfless. They'll care about everybody else, but when it comes to them, they go, no, it doesn't matter about me, it doesn't matter about me. And they always put themselves last. But you need to then learn how to put yourself first, because you can help more people, you can influence more people in a positive way if you put yourself first. But you've never learnt how to do that, to look after yourself in that way emotionally. So those are the things you need to learn, and that's quite fun once you understand it and once you can experience it, because you fulfill yourself that way, rather than on little crumbs that you're used to from somebody else, that you think are really big, but they're not. They're really, you've just been living off crumbs of affection, of praise. You can go out there into the world, and when you start raising your self-esteem, it's amazing how much praise we can get, how much we can give, and how much we receive back, and how that fulfills your soul.
Yeah, and that too is the key to people not just deciding, you know what, I was better off in there eating the crumbs. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Once you have a meal, you realize you are never, ever, and never will be better off eating the crumbs.
Yes, true. So, well, I mean, this was short, punchy, powerful stuff. Tell, tell people how they could find out more about you if they want to work closely with you. Yeah, how do they contact you?
Oh, great, bless you, thank you. I'm going to look at my phone now, because I go, it's really easy actually. I've got two main channels I put people towards. Obviously, the YouTube channel has all the free videos on it, which is great, and all my contact details. And if you just search on that, was it on YouTube? Will Perry Abuse Coach. So that's really nice and easy. Will Perry Abuse Coach. And on Facebook, it's just emotional abuse coach. So Facebook, just search for a page, emotional abuse coach, and I'll come up. So two different ways of contact, and my email and everything are on there.
Okay, I was about to ask that, so they could contact you through those channels.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I would put that information as well in the description section, so you all will be able to find it there. But I just thank you again so much for taking the time to be here. And guys, I don't have to ask. I know you all have learned a lot, and just bear in mind what Will has said and search him up. And also, he'll be putting out a course so soon on Udemy. So check that out. I'll give you information when it comes out as well. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Norva, and thank you for including me too.
You're welcome.
Okay.